I will argue black and blue that property managers are by far the most important person that you need to have on your side when it comes to buying a property. And, I hold property managers in way more value than a buyer's agent and a sales rep and anyone else. Like, they offer so much on the ground experience. And I just wish that property managers could value their role in that so much more and understand that it's okay to charge for these services. It's okay to charge clients for your time because you're offering opinions and expert opinions in that space. And your time for potentially doing pre-purchase inspections or pre-settlement inspections, like, it's just so valuable. But when people feel uncomfortable about like charging for something, my advice would be to think about the hours and the money you have spent on courses, on training for the last 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Like, that is big value. Like, that's a huge chunk of time and money that you've spent to have these expert opinions. You've got to put a value on that.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Property Management Podcast. I'm Kylie Walker. Thank you so much for being here. Now, my guest today really doesn't need any introductions. She's been a regular on the podcast and shares so much amazing value. If you haven't listened to a previous episode with Ashleigh Goodchild, I recommend you go back and watch a couple of the other episodes as well. She is a superstar business owner in the property management world and the founder of PM Collective. Ashleigh is not only successful, she is also a trailblazer who's managed to double her rent roll in just 3 years using the game-changing technique of property profiling, which is basically her own spin on investor services, which of course is not a new thing, but Ash has really taken it to the next level. We'll dive into Ash's incredible journey, uncovering the secrets behind her success and the strategies she's used to skyrocket her business. She also shares some insights into her new course, which is called Property Profiling Pathways, where she literally teaches you everything she's done to grow her rent roll. But that's not all. We'll also chat about the future of property management, the importance of upskilling to keep ahead of the curve, and the everyday challenges property managers face in meeting clients' expectations. This episode is packed with Ash's experience and valuable insights, and there's plenty of actionable tips that you won't want to miss. So whether you're a seasoned pro or just getting started in property management, grab a cuppa, sit back, and get ready to be inspired. Ash, welcome back to the Property Management Podcast. Now, you are no stranger to the podcast. You are one of the regulars. So don't worry about introing yourselves. Everyone can go back and have a listen to previous episodes. But talk about what's been happening. What have you been up to? What's new? What's going on in your world?
Yeah, thanks, Kylie. Well, I've been very busy doing a lot of in-house training and support for real estate officers, which I'm really, really loving that space. And one of the biggest topics that's coming up, particularly in WA, and I'm sure around Australia as well, is just how property management's changing from what we traditionally see as a property manager's role. So we are so used to accepting that property managers, collect rent, arrange some maintenance and do some paperwork. And this comes across as a bit blunt, and I don't mean it in any rude aspect, but at the end of the day, doing just those roles doesn't make you a great property manager. They're very generic roles. And the problem that we've got in the future of property management that I'm worried about is that if we continue to just sort of offer those services and offer them do a good job of them, we are probably at risk of being very replaceable by AI, replaceable by offshore, replaceable by fancy apps and programs where owners can ultimately have access to do these things that we're considering, that's what property managers do. But really, I guess what I wanted to talk about was the upskilling of the property management role and what other things other officers are doing that property managers should just keep in mind and just keep moving forward, I guess, with the role and making sure that we're not replaceable. Like do you, in Queensland, do you guys sort of have those concerns or talks or?
Absolutely. I've been doing a bit of a dive into AI recently and a lot of research and sat in a lot of online courses. And it is worrying and what AI is going to take over that. And if you even just look at the stuff that you do in your own business or the marketing that you do or the advertising that we do, it's already replacing all of that type of stuff. So it does scare me. And, I often kind of try to look to the future and see, okay, what's going to be happening in 5 years' time? What is AI going to be doing for us in, whatever businesses we're in? And one of the things that I have been working on with my team is educating them around that investor education. We are not just property managers, we actually are investor educators. So, which is along the lines of what you were just saying, that, our roles are changing. We have to become, I think, a lot more relevant and important to investors. And I know that you've been on this you've probably cast your vision to this space 5 years earlier before a lot of other people. And that's kind of how your property profiling platform was born, wasn't it?
Yeah, I do tend to think of what the future holds and making sure that I'm always prepped with that. And the investor support services is not anything that's necessarily new. That's been somewhat trained upon by lots of trainers and coaches, for the last 5 years. But even that aspect has changed quite a lot and evolved as time goes on. But I'd really just love to share my thoughts on what I think the future of real estate is and sort of what goes through my head when bringing things into the business like a property profiling pathway. And when I went to the US a number of years ago, even when you watch those selling sunset shows, I find that everyone seems to just have a real estate agent. So you have an accountant, you maybe have a lawyer, you have a beautician, you have a hairdresser, you have someone who is your go-to when you need those services. However, in real estate, I find that varies a little bit. So we might have like a property manager, but it's not unusual for a landlord to have several property managers. Then they've got someone they use for selling and then someone they use for, a buyer's agent. And yes, just different, but all still in real estate. And I just feel like the future needs to be where each person has a real estate agent and whatever you need in real estate, that's your go-to person, just like you do for your accountant or your hairdresser or your beautician. So I feel like that's the first part of where property management and real estate in general is going to. The other thing that I think it's moving towards potentially in the future is a Australia-wide real estate. And we're sort of seeing that already with eastern state offices managing properties in WA and maybe vice versa, and very sort of more global real estate agents. So I think that as time gets on and our legislation changes and becomes a little bit more in line with each state, I feel like we will start seeing offices that manage properties everywhere. That's where I think that it will go to, and that will soon be the norm. And we're going to start seeing the larger offices get larger and offer, like I said, Australia-wide. I don't think it's going to be unusual, but potentially SOCO to be managing properties in Queensland and Victoria, obviously. And then you've got your support, like, your offshore support, you've got your outsourcing support, you've got your AI support, which is going to make that possible. So I think that that's where in the future, whether it's 5 years, 10 years or 1 year, that's sort of where we're heading. So anything that I do, I'm constantly thinking of that end goal potentially. So where the property profiling pathway comes into it is definitely, the traditional support that everyone's been, giving to investors, but it's taking it up a notch and it's really making sure that we are becoming, as property managers, very valuable to the investor market, I will argue black and blue that property managers are by far the most important person that you need to have on your side when it comes to buying a property. And, I hold property managers in way more value than a buyer's agent and a sales rep and anyone else. Like, they offer so much on the ground experience. And I just wish that property managers could value their role in that so much more and understand that it's okay to charge for these services. It's okay to charge clients for your time because you're offering opinions and expert opinions in that space, and your time for potentially doing pre-purchase inspections or pre-settlement inspections, like, it's just so valuable. But when people feel uncomfortable about like charging for something, my advice would be to think about the hours and the money you have spent on courses, on training for the last 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Like, that is big value. Like, that's a huge chunk of time and money that you've spent to have these expert opinions. You've got to put a value on that. You could have quite easily spent $100,000 in time and courses and education when you add everything up. Like, there's a value there. And I don't know why people don't think of that.
I think it's a mindset. I have learnt that charging people for what you're worth is definitely a mindset shift that you need to make, and valuing yourself and the expertise that you deliver. And I love that. I think, I have for years, where we had our investor boom probably 10 years ago. And I would do pre-purchase inspections. I would do the builder handovers. I didn't charge for any of that back then. And then sometimes, not very rarely, but sometimes they would still then go with another agency because, they knew somebody or whatever. So what a waste of time and money that all was. But I love how you think, and I love how you're always forward thinking with property management. And the other thing that I love is that you take us all along on your journey. You share what you intrinsically know. And one of the things that you've done with your property profiling now is that you've actually created a course for property managers as well, so that they can understand this investor education process. Do you want to share a little bit about the course and what's inside it?
Yeah, so it's very much upskilling property managers and upskilling BDMs. And inside the course, you'll have interviews and webinars that I've done with an actual buyer's agent and someone that delivers buyer's agents courses. The relevancy there is that if you are dealing with buyer's agents and those, referral networks, you need to know what type of advice they're giving the client, why certain things are important to investors. And you need to know at what level of education those investors are getting from a buyer's agent. So things like, why is it important to know whether something's in a bushfire zone or a flood zone? You need to understand where the investor's mindset is when they ask you those questions. The other video that we've got in there, which is probably my favorite, is with a self-managed super fund advisor. And she is really, really good at explaining and having the property manager or BDM understand restrictions that investors are going to have if they buy in their self-managed super fund. And it's not about giving advice in that space, because as property managers, we're not, we can't give advice in self-managed super fund, but we can identify if we think an owner could potentially get themselves into a bit of trouble. So for example, there's restrictions on renovations and changing floor plans, for example, and maintenance as well if you own a property self-managed super fund when there's a loan on the property. So understanding that enough so that then if you have a client investor buying a property in their self-managed super fund and it's an absolute derelict of a property, to say to that landlord, listen, might want to go get a bit more advice on this property because I don't know if this is going to be suitable to buy in your self-managed super fund, and then instruct them to go and get the actual advice from their accountant or their advisor. So it's just about understanding enough to be able to point them in the right direction so that they don't get in trouble. So it's those types of things that we're looking at. We've also got a webinar with a new build consultant. So understanding why investors might buy or be interested in new builds, the benefits they have with that, the problems they're going to have with that, advising them that they're, if they're a bit unsure about a contract, there are people out there that you can pay a consultant fee to check your contract to make sure that they know how, know what they're getting with their new build contract. Like, for example, I haven't built a house before, so I'm not an expert in the new build space, but I need to know enough to be able to guide the investor in that right direction. So those webinars are really, really helpful, like I said, just for upskilling property managers and BDMs, for those that are working with investors and also with buyers agents and referral networks. So that's the first part of the course. The second part is your checklists and your paperwork. And then the third part is the actual how-to. So the how-to really is about how to physically set up things and how to set up Calendly, how to set up YouTube, how to actually get it inside your business and working so that it's not taking up too much time, but it's making sure that you're in control of the whole process. Like Calendly, Calendly, it's something we should all have to control our days and our times. And we've got the how-to video on that. And the fourth thing that we have in there is also about the lead generation. And, this is your favorite topic, but how to find those 6 to 8 lead generation sources, how to create them in your business so that you can find where those investors are, you can network with those people, and you can start creating those communities, which I just love having communities. So that's sort of in a nutshell about the course. And we have had a really, really good result in it. And it's so interesting. Some of the feedback that I've had from it, just like random things where they've gone, oh my God, I just sent my owner a video, on this property, and they were so impressed, by how high tech I was. And it's really interesting because in my mind, I was thinking, like, for me, sometimes it's common sense. And then you realize that sometimes what you're doing is actually not something that everybody knows. So it's so lovely to be able to share it, but you don't know what you don't know. So you sort of have to always upskill yourself, learn, join courses, whether it's your course or my course, to really make sure that you're covering all the bases when it comes to, investor support, property profiling, upskilling your team. Like I just love the space so much. And I love sharing what I do and how I do it. And I share absolutely everything. There's all the letters that I sent for my clients, I've included them all in there. They're literally like word for word. And I don't care, because if everyone can offer this great service to clients, then it just becomes a norm. And it's not something special. It's just a new standard. And that's even like when it comes to charging for pre-purchase inspections. I share that with everyone. I tell everyone, what I'm charging and what I'm doing, and also what other people are doing as well. Because if everyone can get some confidence together, then it's not going to be unusual to charge a pre-purchase inspection fee. And then it gives us all an opportunity to up the ante again and to keep on adding this value, but more importantly, be rewarded for it and be valued accordingly for it.
I think you said something really good then. I think uplifting the industry as a whole. I think for far too long we've got a bad rap, property managers. I mean, every investor that you speak to has got a nightmare story, a property management story, or about a property manager or a business owner or whatever. And there is so much negativity around property management and property managers. So I think, this is a really great way for everybody to kind of uplift, up level, upskill, and give our clients a new experience. And definitely what you are creating is the future of property management. And the ones that the ones that aren't going to come along for the journey are going to get left behind, because word of mouth is increasing with great service. the power of our reviews, that word of mouth. And I mean, your business in Perth, since you've started doing this, has exploded, hasn't it? If you are anything like me, you think you know your rent roll numbers. Well, I thought I did until I had a rent roll health check, and I was quite literally shocked. The money I was leaving on the table was astounding, and this is not something that I'm proud to admit. There were missed management fees, let fees, advertising, and lease renewal fees not being charged, and properties even without bonds. And all of this was happening despite monthly audits being conducted in my business. So how did I uncover all these gaps in my valuable income? Well, I had a rent roll due diligence from my good friend Tazi, aka the Rent Roll Queen and founder of the Tazi Way, a specialist in rent roll due diligence, business valuation and management rights. The Tazi Way is the innovative force driving the real estate industry. With 25 years of business and real estate acumen, they find gaps and risks in your agency to find undiscovered value. If you'd like to book your business in for a rent roll due diligence, head to the link in the show notes and mention That Property Mum for a 10% discount. If you're ready to be a super organised, focused and productive property manager, buckle up, because Colmio is about to revolutionise the way that you work. Colmio is the driving force behind property management excellence in residential real estate. Now picture this, a comprehensive end-to-end system designed to be the beating heart of your property management tasks, manage your properties, owners and tenants, and handle payments, inspections, and even marketing listings without leaving the platform. Colmio is designed to be an all-in-one solution to all your property management needs. And here's the game changer. Colmio isn't just software. It's been awarded the most innovative PropTech Scale Up in 2023. Yes, you heard it right. Colmio has been recognised for their groundbreaking approach to property management software. How good is that? So property managers, whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, dive into the future of property management with Colmio. You can book in a demo with the team today and go in their weekly draw for a Prezi gift card worth $100. All you need to do is to head to the link colmio.com/thatpropertymum, and Colmio is KOLMEO.
It has. And I'm not sure that there's going to be clients that haven't used us because we do charge a fee. And there definitely are people out there that don't charge. And that's absolutely fine. What I'm happy with though is that the people that are using us are the good clients that do value. So we're actually finding the quality much better. Would I potentially bring on more clients without charging it? Yes, but they're going to be problems and headaches. So I think it really allows you to enjoy your career when you attract those right people. That's sort of what it's all about. It just makes your life so much easier. And yeah, we've doubled our portfolio since bringing all this on in the last 3 years, and that's been really great. And it's taken a lot of troubleshooting. So I had tried lots of different ways of doing the fees, and ultimately it's come down to just having an individual fee per pre-purchase inspection. For those that are interested in property profiling, when you can head over to Peer Collective and jump on there and have a look at the details of the course. But it's also about making sure that you have clients that are attracted to you and your services, because it goes all through the property management experience. So when you have helped someone so much at the start I do have 2 options. There's free options and then paid options that people can work with me. So I do still give them both. But what it does is, as it leads into the property management services, they're less likely to question your fees because you have helped them so much and they valued that so much as well. that your conversion with the fees is not really anything that needs to be negotiated on. So then when it comes to the client's property being managed by you, they also have developed that trust and loyalty so much that when it comes to maintenance, they trust you with what you're telling them needs to be done. And it just flows through the whole experience as well, and makes your property managers' lives a lot easier because they have got a client that in some way feels indebted to you for helping them buy a property in a tough market. And I guess that's future thinking again, but that's how you sort of need to look at it all. It's not just about valuing your time. It's about a whole journey experience for your office with a client that is very thankful. And investors, they actually prefer to pay, to be honest, for your services. And the reason why they prefer to pay is because they don't, number one, feel bad or guilty about hounding you and calling you because it's a paid service. They know that they're going to get preferential treatment as well. And anytime, like property managers, I have your back. If you don't charge and a client calls me up and says, they're not responding to my calls, I'm wanting them to look at a property, and I would say to them, are you paying for the service? And they go, no, they're doing it for free. And then I would say, how can you expect a property manager to, prioritize this for you when they've got 20 other things to be doing that day? Like, you can't expect them to be giving you the attention that you want if you're not going to pay for the service. So I sort of try to have property managers' backs when it comes to that as well, because that annoys me a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. I think investor, certainly in my market over here on the East Coast, I'm finding investor expectations getting higher and higher, and there's a lot of mortgage pressure out there in the marketplace. But you're right. And what you've created is actually a win-win-win situation. If you've ever watched The Office, that's something that they talk about in there as a joke when it comes to negotiations. But it is, you've created that great onboarding, that great, and if you can have that and people trusting you is the biggest thing, and not questioning you every time you want to make a decision, every time you've got a little bit of maintenance, every time, something happens. But and as I've said in other episodes, I had lost a lot of relationships with my clients. And now that I'm back in, I'm actually managing a portfolio at the moment. And now that I'm back in the trenches, and I do have a lot of empathy for property managers and what they are dealing with at the moment, because tenants are, paying top dollar, and they've never paid this much for rental properties anywhere. Cost of living is ridiculous. They're barely able to afford their rent. But then as soon as the littlest thing, like I'm getting lots of people wanting their light bulbs changed. Ones that there are some instances where they can't, but like a light bulb on a range hood. And I said, why? Why can't you not do that yourself? Like, seriously. No, I pay, X amount in rent. I'm not doing my own maintenance. And then, of course, then I'll go back to the owners, and then they'll say, but they realize that I've got mortgages to pay and my interest rates have gone through the roof. So it is a bit of a tough negotiator. I have torn my hair out a few times in the last couple of weeks. But so I don't know what the solution is to that. But I think ultimately all of this, it'll be so much easier if you're delivering value, from start to finish, I guess. So
I think solution, it is tough because we've all got them. I mean, the stories that we could just, share with the expectations, which really bugs me, both from owners and from tenants. But what it comes down to, I think you've just got to booze it when it comes to clients. I had one the other day, and I'll share it because obviously she's not going to be listening to this podcast, but we've got this pet rule that's just come in where owners have to accept pets. She's got a bloody doggy door in this apartment. So it's like obvious for everyone to see that there's been pets in here. And she's black and white. I don't want pets in this property. And her words were, and I'll go to court for it. So Kylie, when you're doing your little snippets of this, please just don't use this part as your snippet. Okay. Yes. On her feet. Anyway, but I was there, and anyway, she goes to me, and I'll go to court because of it. And at the end of our meeting, I said just said to her straight up, it's comfortable. Like, I don't like having conversations like this, but I just turned to her and I said, listen, something's not sitting comfortable with me. I am really not happy about the conversation we had about pets, because what you're basically asking me is to do something that is going to be against legislation. I'm not comfortable throwing you under the bus as a client either, because you're the one that said, they can go to court if they get a pet. I said, it just doesn't sit right with me. And I'm just not comfortable managing a property with you having that opinion and attitude about pets, because it's just not going to end. And well, she was also a lady. I mean, she's a nice lady, but she was also talking about how she doesn't wear shoes inside the house. And she sort of was putting these expectations on what she expected of her tenant. And again, I just said to her, listen, some of these things you've mentioned are really personal choices that you've made with not wearing shoes in a house. But it's not something, like 90% of the time, it's not going to be an issue. But there could be 5-10% of the time that you're going to be upset with something, whether it's traffic wear on a carpet. And I just want you to know that the expectations are this and this and this, because I don't want to go and have an argument with you at the end of the tenancy. And so having those conversations which had authority and confidence from me has really set a really good tone with the relationship. I wasn't rude, but I think that's it was a nice way of saying it, to say, listen, this doesn't feel comfortable with me. I am not comfortable with this conversation. It's not being horrible, but it's giving some assertiveness to the relationship we're about to go into. So when it comes to those unreasonable expectations, I think that we really just need to not hold any emotion to the conversation, but we actually just need to get better at the confidence and the control, because they're paying us to have that control. And there are ways that you can do it in an appropriate manner. I think it was Xavier who once said that property management is a sport and you've just got to get better at playing the game. And that's really what it is. We can't constantly wish that owners didn't have these expectations, tenants didn't have these expectations. We have to just get better at managing it at the end of the day. And that's because we can't change other people's behavior. It's like we having a conversation with my kids, when they come back from school and someone's bullied them for something. I can't control what other children say. All I can do is control how we're going to deal with it. And these are our options. So that is the solution to get better at our jobs. And I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I totally agree. I absolutely totally agree. And I had a similar situation with a client, with an owner a couple of weeks ago, and I actually met her at the property with the tenants, because it was just the emails were just getting out of control. So I met her there, and the issue, there was a couple of maintenance issues. The property wasn't great with, there's lots of maintenance when they moved in, and she'd moved out of the property. So she was emotionally attached to it. It was fine when I lived there, all that sort of stuff. But the big issue was that the hot water in the property was like a dribble. Nobody, that's just not fair on anybody to have a shower. Imagine trying to wash your hair in winter with a dribble of hot water. That would just literally tip me over the edge. And the owner could not see that was an issue. Just could not, as a reasonable human, could not see that was an issue. And which was very frustrating for obviously the tenants. And I'm kind of just trying to, but anyway, after that, the emails started up again. I kept asking her, can I just get my friend who's a plumber around, just to give you, an idea that no cost. I'd even worn some maintenance costs myself just to help the tenants out. And she was just so unreasonable. And then she started criticizing the way that I was running my business and the job that I was doing. And I just wrote back. I tried calling her first, but then I wrote back and I just said, I'm so sorry. I cannot work under these circumstances. Here's your 30 days notice. I recommend that you find a new property manager. I'll help smooth things over. I'm really sorry it's come to this, but I'm just the middle person here and I can't get a resolution. And, I I need you to find somebody that's going to meet your expectations, something like that. But anyway, it was hard. It was hard to do. And it's a very high rental price property as well. So I didn't like having to do that, but it just got to that point where I had to assess how much energy and time am I putting into this? And then thinking about it after work, thinking about how to word that last, and it was in the end, she was sending very abusive message. How am I going to respond to this nicely and professionally and calmly? ChatGPT, how do I respond to this? But yeah, Ash, thank you so much. We are running out of time, but you've shared obviously amazing wisdom as always. How can anyone listening look into your core? Maybe if you want to share any more details about that, sign off.
So if you just actually Google property profiling pathway, it should come up nice and high there, and you can find all the details of it. And it's like I said, it's great to upskill property managers, upskill your BDMs and business owners just to see other ways that you can start bringing in leads. So I guess I would probably just sort of mention that for our office, by using a property profiling pathway, it has doubled the leads that we get into our business. So when I actually look at our program, at our IRE BDM we use, if I look at what inquiries have come through property profiling versus our general new business leads, it has been, 50-50, which is really great. So just take that on board. And at the end of the day, if you're going to stay still, you might as well go backwards because the industry is moving fast. There are a lot of people that have been doing this for a long time already. Obviously, we're just starting to amp it up in what we're doing with Property Profiling Pathway, just putting that extra service to the traditional investor support that people have been doing. But that's really where it's going. So if you're not doing anything slightly close to that, I highly recommend you get on board and start implementing it. So that's my little sales rant about it.
Amazing. Thanks, Ash.
Thank you. Good talk.
Can I ask you a quick favour before you leave this episode? Now, we all know how important reviews are for businesses these days, and mine is no different. If you could spare just a minute to follow, rate and review this podcast, it would mean a lot to me. In fact, what would get me super excited is if you share this podcast with someone in the industry who you think might need to hear some of the episodes right now. And if you'd like to find out more about working with me or any of the products I have to help you start, grow or scale your property management business, head to my website, thatpropertymum.com.au, or check out the links in the show notes.